I'm ready. I'm ready.
Promotion.
Start it up. Sacrifice to preserve life. While most of the classic schools of magic study are well known and widely respected, the less refined and macabre incantations of hemocraft have long been forbidden to lost to most of the civilized world. Blood hunters have reclaimed these techniques away from the judging eyes of society, finding blood magic's esoteric nature effective against the evils that often defy the divine powers that historically hold the line. Through careful study and practice, blood hunters have honed the rites of hemocraft into their combat prowess, forwarding a faucet of their health to infuse their weapons with powerful blood magic and summoning the elements to envelop their strikes. They can sear an arcane brand into the body of their quarry that hinders their foe's ability to punishes their aggression, or call upon blood curses upon their enemies, manipulating their bodies from the inside, willing to suffer whatever it takes to achieve victories. These adept warriors have forged themselves into a potent force against the terrors that threaten the innocent. They are also a monster to fight monsters, whether driven by the wish to make a difference in this dangerous world, the need to take vengeance for a great wrong they have suffered, or being inspired and witnessing the strange and powerful techniques of another blood hunter in person, or just seeking a place to belong in the uncaring world. The reason one may take up the blood hunter's bane and choose this life are many and varied. In joining a order of blood hunters, one is also joining a tight family bound by service to each other and the common cause. For many, this is the only family they have known or left, so the kinship felt between the members is nigh unbreakable. Beyond the boundaries of the order, however, the life of blood hunter is not easy. The rituals of the hunter's bane regularly leave one visibly changed and prone to unsettle common folk, and witnessing the hemocraft can invoke a superstitious fear from even the most learned scholar. While societies have come to accept the good deeds of the order, many blood hunters publicly hide their nature until absolutely necessary, feeling more comfortable in the wilds and wastes of the world where the orders train commonly. Even so, the best work a blood hunter can usually do involves the poor and defenseless on the outskirts of society, those prone to the corrupting touch of fiends and dark intentions. Braving the threat of vilification, these dark protectors wade through the civilizations, earning coin as mercenaries or bounty hunters, ever watching for the signs of something more nefarious beneath the surface. In choosing this path, the blood hunter has irrevocably given part of themselves to their cause. The order of blood hunters practice their own unique ideals and methods, employing techniques with dark origins that test the strength and will of these guardians. Many wrestle with the fear of losing the struggle, so a life of discipline and vigilance drives their travels as they wander the countryside looking for other bitches and whores, and following the whispers of dark deceit. Alright.
Good evening.
Why the fuck did I love how you read that last part like that. What the fuck?
I just felt like it. I feel like I'm just going nefarious and stupid.
Blood Hunter. Which are the class? It's your boys, also Hatter.
Yes,
It's your boy, the Blood Hunter.
We have brought in a random scrub.
As you should.
We found this man on the street. He wasn't sucking dick for money. He was doing much worse.
Now we're doing community service.
Like I said, much worse.
You're good.
And we decided, hey, you know it'd be great to bring this fucking hobo in here. Let's get to rating.
Well, before we get to rating, we talk about the class features. Starting off, they have a D10 hit dice, which is pretty standard for martial type classes, so they have some of the higher healths in the game. Not as much as the barbarian, but not any less than other mainline people.
Girthy.
They are proficient in light and medium armors and shields, simple weapons and martial weapons. They have a tool proficiency in alchemist supplies, so they can do potion crafting. They have saving throws and dex and int, some of the more appropriate types of things for a monster hunter. And they get 3 skills as opposed to 2 that other martial classes get. They get athletics, acrobatics, arcana, history, insight, investigation, religion, and survival. Although thinking about how the blood hunter works, arcana, history, and religion might actually be the ones you want to actually choose, since you have, their first level ability gives you something for those. And as for their equipment, they gain a martial weapon, 2 simple weapons, a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or a hand crossbow and 20 bolts. They can get the best light armor, or a decent medium armor, and they gain an explorer's pack. Any thoughts?
It gets one of the better lighter armor.
It gets the best non-magical light armor.
Indeed. I agree with you there. With the little arcana history and stuff like that, since, you know, you have decent if you're going with this class here.
Yeah, it's an int it kind of has things reliable on int, so you're gonna have a decent investigation and history thing, and you want to have wisdom for, your tracking. And since you're already gonna have advantage on that, it's pretty nice. But
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I know it's Witcher the class, but I do enjoy how he's more prepared than the average class. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
nerdy. So coming to the very first ability that they get, Hunter's Bane. You have survived the Hunter's Bane, a dangerous, long-guarded ritual that alters your life's blood, forever binding you to the darkness and honing your senses against it. You have advantage on wisdom survival checks when you're tracking Fae, Fiends, and Undead, as well as on intelligence ability checks to recall information about them. The Hunter's Bane also empowers your body to control and shape Hemocraft magic, using your own blood as life fuel for your abilities. Some require saving throws, which is 8 plus your proficiency and your intelligence modifier. So you gotta be smart.
Gotta be the smart lassie.
You gotta be smart. It almost doesn't matter which campaign you do. You're gonna eventually find a Fae, a Fiend, or an Undead. Maybe all three at once, and then you're just gonna be sad. Maybe
It's really good for a Curse of Strahd. It's really good for, Descent of Avernus. Stuff like that.
Maybe you walk into the wrong neighborhood and a Lich, a Baylor, and a Fey Lord are standing around the corner, and they just proceed to curb stomp you.
You can't do wrong here, son. Beat the shit out of you repeatedly. You'd be like that one JoJo meme.
Yeah, the Fae is the one drinking the tea, and then he's like, this looks like fun. Because that sounds like what a Fae would do. It's a 9 out of 10 ability to me.
I would agree. It has its situational uses. It is kinda useful, depending on how well your DM plays out the recall information about the things, though.
I studied this ancient text long ago about the obligatory romances of the troll, and I know that if you do cut off their dick, it will grow back.
It will grow back.
I don't know about that one.
Why is that something you learned? It was important at the time.
At the time.
Man, overall, it's a good ability for what it's supposed to be doing.
It is a good monster hunting ability.
Yeah.
It was like an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, or something like that.
9. I say 9. What do you say, Undead?
I rethunk it, and it is situational.
What do you mean rethunk it? It's not like you botched the first attempt we did of this and had a chance to
Oh, definitely not. This definitely isn't a reshoot.
Why must you fail me so often?
Definitely.
Definitely not. We practiced this beforehand.
I'm gonna fucking pop a fucking cap in my skull. Anyway,
But you can't say that on camera.
It's bad for your health.
I'm not on camera. I'm on fucking recording. They
Same
can't see
difference.
my face.
This is how you have 13 Reasons Why.
I never watched that, but I know it's bad.
It was absolutely
no.
garbage.
But no, it kind of situational, but no real bad and no real downside. So I'll say 9.
You're gonna say 9. I am going to skip the Blood Maledict for the moment, as you get to see a lot of its abilities and additions at the very end. So we're gonna hop right into the second level ability. Starting off, we get the fighting style, which gives us archery, dueling, great weapon fighting, and two-weapon fighting. You don't get defense, which is kind of sad, but
You get on the main ones.
there's other ways to prepare. So it's a 9 out of 10. I'll give it a 9.
A solid 9 out of 10.
I thought about it.
Again, no real downsides. Yeah, Harry earlier said that it missed one area of fighting.
which was the defensive style, which gave you a +1 to your AC.
Indeed.
But no, no real downsides. All it does is boost every type of fighting you could want from this class. So yeah, 9/10.
9/10. Alrighty. So, skipping over to our other second level thing, we gain the Crimson Rite. You learn to invoke a rite of Hemocraft within your weapon at the cost of your own vitality. Choose one rite from the primeval rites below to learn. As a bonus action, you can activate a Crimson Rite on a single weapon with elemental energy of a known rite of your choice that lasts until you finish a short or long rest, or if you aren't holding the weapon at the end of your turn. When you activate a rite, you lose a number of hit points equal to one roll of your Hemocraft die, which it starts off at a D4, goes up to a D6, a D8, and then finalizes at a D10. For the duration, attacks from this weapon deal an additional Hemocraft die worth of damage, and is considered magical.
Wait, did I mishear or how when?
And I think it scales at the same level the monk's die does too. So there's that.
It does, actually. You're right. It has a monk's level scale. So, at level 7, you gain an additional Primal Rite, giving you 2 Primal Rites, and at level 14, you gain an access to an Esoteric Rite, giving you 3 different buffs you can use. The Primal Rites, which you have to choose from, is the Rite of Flame for fire damage, the Rite of Frozen for cold damage, and the Rite of Storm for lightning. I don't know why it doesn't just call it the Rite of Ice. The Rite of Frozen just doesn't seem you roll off the tongue. And as for the Esoteric Rites, you gain the Rite of the Dead, the Rite of the Oracle, and the Rite of the Roar. Necrotic, Psychic, and Thunder damage.
Overall, there's some pretty good damage types, to be honest. Like, other than the fire one, I think all the other ones are less resistant.
So,
do pretty good with them.
With this
since this isn't
ability,
since technically this is an unofficial class, couldn't you just get like a Fire Elementalist and ignore most of those resistances? Or is that just based on spells?
That's just based on spells, unfortunately, which kind of sucks, but that's besides the point.
Oh, we pulled up the Warforged on screen. Hold on.
I didn't pull up the Warforged. What are you talking about?
I don't
think
know
I did.
what I am talking about.
Anyway, no, even though you lose health, I definitely consider that a 10 out of 10. Giving you the extra damage, and for all you know, you might just roll a 1 on that damage die and basically lose next to nothing.
It's certainly better than what Molly Mock had, I can tell you that much.
I have a question.
Yeah.
But I will say, though, at lower level, this might be a tad bit more difficult to use.
I have a question.
Since you have less health, but once you get up there, it'll be
Yeah, I can definitely see you taking a hill dwarf with the tough feet.
Yeah. Or, multi-class and do that.
For the best of it.
Oh, yeah, just go for the tough feet. Very human tough feet, and, could easily soak it up.
Do you have to roll a die to, pick which one you do, or do you just pick which one you want?
You choose the rights, but then to activate it, you have to roll a die and take damage.
Yeah.
Alright, so it's trading health for a buff, which is interesting, but that is not something you want to use low level.
Now, to be fair, you are trading health for this, but it does say until you finish a short or long rest, or if you aren't holding the weapon. So theoretically, if you start the day, use this, drink a little healing potion at the start or something, and then just continue for the rest of your day holding that weapon, you could, for all intents and purposes, have that weapon enchanted for 16 hours.
Indeed.
Fair.
So,
but but no, okay, so
yes, go on.
you're buffed for the rest of the day, so that kind of makes up for it. But still, you don't get a lot of this good shit until level 7.
I have a question, actually.
No. you can choose one of the options, right? Yeah, level 3 you'll be able to choose. Well, I mean, level 2 you'll be able to choose one of the primal rights. You just happen to get another one at level 7, and then you get your final right at 14.
Mm.
So at level 2 you'll be able to pick up the right of the flame, and then at level 7 you'll be able to pick up the right of the frozen, and then at 14 you'll be able to pick up the right of the oracle or some shit.
My question is, say you have a battle master in your party, and he uses rally on your character, gives you those temporary health points. Would this take away your temporary health points to use, or would it just focus on your main health?
I would think so. I would think
No,
temporary.
Matt Mercer already answered this. It'll go right through your. It just goes straight to health. You can't. Yeah, you can't. Stop
Now,
it.
was that before they did the change like they did to this? It used to just
Oh, no.
reduce your max health.
Yeah, no, it's still the same.
Okay.
He made it.
Okay, I can accept that. Anyway, I said a 10. I think Hatter said 10. What about you, Undead?
Oh, you're gonna be upset with me. I'm gonna give it an 8.
An 8. A weapon buff you
I
could
mean,
have
there's some
for,
downsides there.
a weapon buff you could have for 16 hours that you can put on 2 different weapons. Which I think you could also put on a bow and use just ranged attacks.
Mm-hmm.
You disappoint me. So, you were correct.
It is. I don't know. Like, I feel like I would use this if I would remember it, but also, fuck, I don't know what to say about this one. It's just the health has me concerned. Even if I drink health potions, like I just wasted a health potion just to get a simple buff.
I mean, to be fair,
you have proficiency in alchemy supplies. You could make
I mean,
health potions.
I mean that's true. But I was about to say you really use health potions in combat anyway, since it takes an action. I mean,
That, and you have a chance of rolling a 1, and I mean honestly, if I take 1 damage, it's like, ow, I sucked my toe in there.
Mhm.
But I digress. I'll let you live with your incorrect answer, Undead.
Yeah,
We do not talk about the
I ain't
level
here to
3rd.
please you. I ain't here to please you.
We're not going to talk about any of the hunter orders as the current, because that's mainly because the order of the mutant will be a very long talk,
oh
and I don't
God.
want to stab my eyes out. We're not going to talk about ability score improvements for the purposes of focusing mainly on the strength of the class. We're just focusing on upgrading their ability scores and not taking feats. So at level
We
5...
focus in straight on the class.
Exactly. So at level 5, they get the classic martial archetype thing of extra attack. Whenever you take 1 attack action, you can hit them twice. Because apparently you learned the backhand
10.
swing.
Extra attack always gonna be a 10.
And what about you, Hatter?
Yep, I'm always gonna give it a 10 too. Double the power. That's always great.
No, in all these martial thingies, I'm always getting talked down about. Like, hey, they're technically the same, so I guess I'll go ahead and give it an 8.
I mean, it could be worse. You could be a cleric and not get any extra attack.
I could be a war cleric and use my proficiency bonus. Or is it the wisdom?
It's wisdom.
Yeah.
It is wisdom. But it's still not
Extra
extra
attack
attack.
always gonna get a 10. Always gonna get a 10.
At least not the base class.
Nah, but you don't really need to talk about that. You just double bitch slap. So coming up to level 6, we get the Brand of Castigation.
Oh, I love
Whatever
this
that word
ability.
is. Whenever you
Oh,
damage a
man.
creature with your Crimson Right feature, you can choose to sear an arcane brand of Hemocraft magic into it. No action needed. You always know the direction of the branded creature, so it cannot escape you. And each time the branded creature deals damage to you or a creature you can see within 5 feet, it will take psychic damage equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1. The brand will last until you dismiss it, or apply the brand to another creature. Your brand counts as a spell for the purpose of Dispel Magic, and the spell's level is equal to half your Bloodhunter level, maxing out at 9th level. Once you use this, you cannot use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So,
Good ability.
it's free damage, yeah. It doesn't really cost you anything other than, having to do a short or long rest to get it back afterwards.
Requires no action.
Yep, you just smack a bitch and there we go.
It's it mins out at 1 and theoretically maxes out at 5
I feel like
For each hit, by the ways.
for each
That
hit.
it does. This one.
I feel like this is very situational, and you said you need to complete a short or long rest to regain it after the
Oh,
first
this
time
is
you
never
use it.
situational. This is an all-time thing here. Oh, this is a good ability.
But
Even when it gets better
no,
at later levels.
do you have to take a short rest every time you use it to get it back?
Yes, it's like
Yes.
second wind.
Right,
So my question on this, it lasts until you dismiss it. Wouldn't technically falling unconscious dismiss it, or is it gonna stay there?
You'll probably go away if you go unconscious.
But
I mean, it's free damage. It doesn't cost you anything, and if you're fighting somebody and they got a lot of attacks and they hit you and your ally that's right next to you, there's like 10 damage, or if you got some weird thing that just attacks everyone around it, you could potentially get quite a bit depending on the size of your party. I mean, you can always roleplay a little way that like maybe the mark of Cain forms in their forehead or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But
Stab them in a little sigil. You can stab them and brand them with it. Just like a sword mark, just brand into the skin.
And
That's
psychic damage is one of the most unresisted damages in the game, so that's a very bonus thing. And yeah, I guess the only real thing is I just wish you could use it more times before you have to do a short or long rest.
Yeah. Oh, well, but definitely this ability would be more for boss battle. Like if you were going up against the boss, this would definitely be the time to use it on them.
Or like a particular mage that
Oh, yeah.
teleports away. Because you basically know where he exists. He cannot escape you.
Eat that man's ass.
Teleport? Why is he in my bedroom? No.
Use it on straw so he can never disappear. I know where you are, bitch.
But no.
But no, I think
I think that's a 10 out of 10 ability, to be honest. I
You
think that's a
think
really
that's
good
10?
ability. I do. Because you'll see why later on. You'll see why later.
so there's a buff to it later on. Alrighty.
Oh, yeah.
But
Becomes nice.
just looking at it right now,
Still think it's a 10 out of 10 ability.
I'm
Free
gonna say
damage, and it doesn't even
it's-
have to be you. You can literally have just a barb, reckless near you, and still get that damage off.
now
Or a cleric.
I can understand it, but say you get attacked by a lot of creatures and they just happen to have a leader creature, and you're like, I'm gonna do this, and then immediately after that you get attacked by a much more powerful creature. Well, you've wasted it. You have the potential to either waste it too easily, or you're not gonna use it at all. Expecting,
mean-
maybe there's something bigger around the corner. There's got to be something bigger
I
around the
mean,
corner.
you could say the same thing about action surge, too.
Yeah,
You know.
Action
think
Surge
it's
does a
good what it
lot
does.
more damage than this.
I mean, yeah, but you get the idea of it. You just gotta place your time in with it, you know?
I'm gonna say 9. I'm gonna give it a 9
For me,
because it's
it is.
psychic. That hurts practically anything, and if you're fighting a phantom troll, this would be a godsend.
Like, for me, this is kind of situational. It takes a short or long rest to recharge it, but there are so many other upsides. Like Saint said, fucking mental damage, psychological damage.
Just every time they hit
Brain
the wrong
damage.
person, they get brain damage, and it's just like a mental flashbang of they're like the most cringe moment of their life. Like, defeats them with tears. Either way, no. So what do you think it is, Undead?
There's just so much free fucking damage with this. And the only thing I see wrong with it is that situational. It dealing with multiple enemies is annoying, but fucking the short and long rest. But it just feels so good that I'm gonna give it a 9.
You're gonna give it a 9? Alright. Like the only other
damage.
thing I could say on this is what
The
if
damage.
you do? Well, no. What if you do use it on a creature? Like, and you think it's a tough creature, but let's say you have a party of 4, and one's a fighter, one's a barb, and one's let's just go with a wizard plus you, the Bloodhunter. So you go first, you hit it, you apply this thing to it. Nice. All right. So next time it hits somebody, then the fighter comes around, hits it, action surge, hits it some more. The barbarian comes around, crits it a few times, and it drops dead. Well, now it really is a wasted ability. And it's not like Hex or Hunter's Mark where you're just like, hold on, I'm just gonna shift this onto somebody else. No, I could give it almost a flawless 10 out of 10 if, like, during
I don't think Hex or Hunter Mark does that. I think it's as long as you kill it. I don't think it counts if someone else kills it.
No, as long as you have concentration on the spell, you can shift it over if the person dies. Like
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, you're right. I think it just as long as the creature drops to 0, you can shift it. But granted, that's a spell. You don't have to concentrate on this, so if you get smacked, you have nothing to worry about. Unlike Hunter's Mark, you can drop it and
I know that. What I'm saying is, give it a less duration than like Hex or Hunter's Mark. Maybe give it like a Barbarian Rage duration of 1 minute. Sure, it won't last indefinitely like it does now, but having the ability to, like, in a situation where you do have a lot of things, shift it. I can see that I could see that being more useful in a lot more situations, and you'd still get it back on a short or long rest.
Yeah, but I think that would be also a lot more powerful than Hex or 100 Mark.
It's technically less, because, you know, like Hunter's Mark, you hit them, and I think it helps you find them easier, which this technically does as well. And then Hex, you give them disadvantage on certain checks.
Yeah, but I was also referring that you have to actually roll the damage for 100 Mark and actually hit them, but this is just, if you get hit, it's just straight up 5 damage if you had, 20 in. That is free damage, and then later on you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see what I'm talking about when it gets buffed up.
We'll see what it gets there. So we'll hop on to the 9th level ability here, called the Glim Psychometry.
1.
You're gonna give that a 1? Okay. You have a supernatural talent for discerning the history surrounding mysterious objects or places touched by evil. When making intelligence history check to recall information about a darker past surrounding an object or location you're person in, you have advantage on the roll. The information gleaned often leads toward the more sinister influence of the past, and sometimes conveys visions of things previously unknown to the character on higher rolls. I can see why you say 1, but roleplay-wise, this looks neat.
It is, but it's just such a situational ability compared to like everything else you get. It just
it really
when
is.
You're in that situation. It is ungodly.
But granted, you could just make a normal history check and get the same result.
Well, no. The way this talks is you learn more of the sinister things.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's not like
it's
not like you're recalling. It's like like you say, it's more of a vision as opposed to, wait a minute, I remember this place. This is where they slaughtered 1 million babies. And the way you can, like a good DM could roleplay it more like you sit there and you kind of just touch the surrounding area, and suddenly all your compatriots disappear. Now everything in the room is on fire, and you hear screaming, and you see murder happening in all corners.
Like I said, it's a very situational ability, but I do think that would be a good ability, like Curse of Strahd, even though it's at level 9. But like you could go around and touch like certain things, and you learn Strahd's history that way instead of getting that book that you get.
You could see the death of Sergei. So
yeah,
you said 1, Hatter. So you're giving this a 1.
It's just so situational, and it only works on like evil things. Like you can't.
I know it. I understand. I understand why you're giving that, but I'm gonna give it a 5 because it's not a bad ability. My rank of 5 is I don't hate it, I don't love it, but I do see some way I can enjoy it.
Yeah,
it doesn't take away, and to a degree, the role play on this can be very amusing. So I'm gonna give it a 5, which is my perfectly middle ground.
Like
That's fair.
I agree with saying, like, I see a lot of situations where this can be overly fun. Like, it's very situational, very, but when that situation comes, it's gonna make for an interesting session. Like,
So what
but
are you gonna rank it?
I actually really like the sound of this one, so I'm gonna give it a 6.
You gonna give it a 6?
Like, it's very situational, but it sounds fun.
Ah, I see. I
Like,
see the first upgrade to the one thing there, but no, like I said, I I could give it a 1, but it's not detrimental to the class. It's not
It's
negative,
not, but, like,
and
it's like filler.
it's
like, one day I want us to have a podcast for like, like a very, either a very short podcast or a very jam-packed podcast on the fucking role play value of shit like this.
all right. We'll talk about that. Either way, so moving away from that, we're going to go to the 10th level ability called Dark
Oh damn,
Augmentation.
10?
Yep.
Well, we jumping all the way to 10.
Yeah, it went from 9 to 10. It's not a big jump. Arcane blood magic suffuses your body,
No,
permanently reinforcing your.
Hold on. Like, no, it's just like, I feel like we're still very early on in the video. And we're at level
Oh boy,
10.
you jumped a whole one there. That's so big.
No, it's just like.
Jesus Christ.
I just feel like that. I feel like.
I was almost gonna read it without the thing, but it broke me.
I can't help us. He stood there with a huge jump, and I'm just like, this is why you need Matt.
Boy, okay. Alright, I'm good. I'm good. So, at 10th level, our biggest jump yet. Dark Augmentation.
Yeah, big number.
Arcane blood magic suffuses your body, permanently reinforcing your resilience. Your speed increases by 5, and whenever you make a dex, strength, or constitution saving throw, you gain a bonus equal to your intelligence modifier.
10 out of 10 ability.
Oh my god.
10 out of 10 ability.
So he says 10 out of 10. Alright.
But that is a basic resilient feat, just missing by 1. If you had 20 intelligence, that is a +5 to those stats. That is basically a whole proficiency right there.
Now, I like the speed. I like that it gives it a strength, dex, and con, because those are very important to a martial class. But
And, I mean, hear me out, though. You already get intelligence, right? You already get the intelligence one. So you're going to have high intelligence, plus strength, plus dex, and con now.
well,
All because of that
also,
ability.
you're also proficient in dexterity as well. So
Indeed,
dex
so that
is
even
getting
makes
a
it higher.
significant plus. Which makes it sad that they don't have evasion.
Asian. I mean, you're still halving damage, though, so I guess it ain't that bad.
Now, what you need to do is you need to have a very smart and charismatic man. You need to get the 10 levels of here for this, and then you need to go 6 levels of paladin.
That's true.
6 levels of paladin.
That's
But
a
hear
plus
me.
10.
But you know what, though? I mean, you sure they don't have evasion, but
And
you could always
if
take...
if you go paladin of glory, that you get an even more feat to go by.
I just want to let you know, though, but... even though they don't have evasion, you could technically get evaded by taking Shield Master on the character and easily stop damage from coming through.
you
with that high-ass
could.
dex.
You're very correct. But the class.
Since they're dexed.
But no, I have to. I mean, it makes sense for the character. It gives him a little extra speed. I mean, 5 is. It's not like, oh boy, now I'm going across the world. But no, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 9.
Oof.
Just
How you gonna
because
do that?
it doesn't give it in wisdom, honestly.
I mean, you could always just use a feat to soak that up.
Yes, but we're not looking at feats.
Indeed. But even then, you could just have a normal wisdom and stuff and be fine with it.
Like,
Since
They
it
give
is
you all
kind of
the
supposed
main
to be
ones.
a wisdom character as well.
Yeah, it gives you all the main ones, and I think that's important.
It is, but that's why I'm giving it a 9. I'm not giving it a 10 because I feel like wisdom is also kind of a very important one because of all the because
Charms.
a lot of spells are wisdom saves.
Oh, speaking of which, we'll get to that too. It's later on down the line, but we'll get to that part too, where I mentioned that it is a 10 out of 10 ability. You should be able to see it, though. I'm talking about though.
alright. So, I'm looking at this. And it's just a straight buff. It's just
Facts.
a straight buff. Like, you armor up, you go 5 feet faster. You have better shit for strength, dexterity, constitution throws. And you gain a bonus to the save. I ain't saying anything bad with this. It's just a straight buff. I'm gonna give it a 10.
Hey, even a +3, you know, even with like a 16 in, that's still pretty good.
Like, if I gave this a 9, I would be upset with myself, but I would be like, I'm going stern. I'm going fucking savage on these fucking
So
perks.
you're going 10 out of 10, alrighty. So,
Change the only oddball.
I don't know where we're in. This is actually a big jump. We're going from 10 to 13.
We're going backwards now?
Yes. Alright, so what we get is called Band of Tethering. Your psychic damage from your Band of Castigation increases twice your intelligence modifier, minimum of 2, so you can do a max of 10. In addition, a branded creature can't take the dash action, and if the creature attempts to teleport or leave their current plane via ability, they take 4d6 psychic damage and must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failure, they cannot teleport or plane shift.
Now, this is an important ability. I think
This
it's 10
is-
out of 10. Not only does it boost the damage of your brand of castation already, but if you're fighting a mage or something, you basically get rid of most of their, you know, mobility, because
This is
not only do they take psychic damage,
I mean, I already have to agree with you. That is a 10 out of 10 right there.
like, this is a fucking counter. At first, it's like, hey, we gonna buff you, and then it's like, hey, you know what else we gonna do? You know what else? We gonna counter. Like, I don't know
you basically
why,
have your own
but-
counter spell.
yeah,
Without counter
like,
spell.
when I hear this, I go straight to thinking about, like, Overwatch, like, same talking about Reaper countering Hog, or Genji countering Junkrat. It's just like, you can teleport. Oh, that's impressive. You can't do that no more. It's like a fucking Sombra hack, and I love it. So, like, even the...
Yeah, it stops it from using any ability that does it, spell or portals. So, hey, it's a good ass ability. That's a 10 out of 10 right there.
Yeah,
I
agree.
feel-
It's a 10 out of 10.
I feel like a sucker for giving it a 10, but I'm gonna give it a 10.
Alrighty. So, immediately after that, at level 14, we have Hardened Soul. You gain advantage against being charmed and frightened. So, obviously, that is very good. It's not going to affect an elf as much, but...
Wasn't there an ability like this for the fucking monk?
No, that's to end
Was-
it.
No.
Was it monk?
That's the
What
end
was-
it. That's the end it. Provided you fail.
Hmm.
But yeah, this along with the plus, the dark augmentation, you get a really nice area of saving throw there.
So,
That's what I'm saying. I think the dark
yeah.
augmentation is a 10 out of 10, especially when you compare with that, and then the heart and soul. Sense advantage is basically also a +5 to your rolls. It takes care of, let's see, you got dex save, you got strength save, you got con save, and wisdom save now. The only one you're missing is charisma, basically.
So he's giving that a 10 out of 10. What is
Maybe-
Undead giving this?
I want to not like this, but
I
yeah,
want to not
there's
like this.
yeah, like I want to be a crude fucking critic, but no, there's nothing bad with this. All it does is add on. I'm gonna give it a 10.
Now, in my defense, you could be an elf and get resistance to those charms.
Elves be some cunts.
You could be a level 10 paladin and just be straight up immune to frightened, and everyone around you is also immune. You could be a berserker barbarian at level 6 and become immune while raging.
Mm-hmm.
So I had noticed during my editing process that when we got to a point, my mic cut out. So because of that, I'm doing a small reshoot of the Blood Curses and the Sanguine Mastery because, well, I tend to do most of the talking and then it just sounds weird if it's just them. So at the 20th level we get Sanguine Mastery, which is you hone your control over blood magic, mitigating your sacrifice and powering your capability. Once per turn, whenever a Bloodhunter feature requires you to roll your Hemocraft, you can re-roll and choose either dice. In addition, whenever you score a critical hit with a weapon attack empowered by your Crimson Right, you regain 1 expended use of your Blood Maledict. Now, I think, yes, I had given this a 10. Undead had given. We did all give it a 10. It's still a kind of funny looking capstone ability for a character, but we had agreed that what it could offer was better than most. That and being able to get the lowest possible roll on your Hemocraft die in any type of crisis situation, or even if you really just didn't want to take a lot of damage, was also a very good choice. And there wasn't much we could say like, huh, no, I don't need that. We all agree that it was something we could definitely use. Then we hop back up to the Blood Maledict, which we got at first level because we had chosen to do this last because there had been a lot of the ones we could talk about. At first level we gained the Blood Maledict, the ability to channel and sometimes sacrifice a part of our vital essence to curse and manipulate creatures through hemomagic. You learn an additional blood curse of your choice, and you can choose one of the blood curses you know and replace it with another blood curse at 6th, 10th, 14th, and 18th level, giving you a maximum of 5 and allowing you to adjust them if you decide, well, I want to try this one, but this one kind of sucked, so I'm going to swap this one out as well. When you use your Blood Maledict, you can choose which curse to evoke while evoking a blood curse, but before it affects the target, you choose Amplify it, losing another hit points equal to a Hemocraft die roll. It will be amplified, gain an additional effect known in the curse's descriptions. Creatures that do not have blood in their bodies are immune to blood curses unless you amplify it. You can use this once, beginning at 6th. You can use this feature once, beginning at 1st level. And at 6th level you get twice, at 13th level you get 3 times, and 17th level you get it 4 times. Which follows the monk and fighters. Well, it follows the monks kind of martial strength gain, and as well as the Hemocraft die. So each time you get an extra your Hemocraft upgrades, you get another Blood Maledict, which I guess is fine. So we're gonna scroll back down here. So starting at the blood curses, it does it in alphabetical order, which is hilarious. But we have the Blood Curse of the Anxious. As a bonus action, you magnify the adrenaline in the body of a creature within 30 feet of you, making them susceptible to forceful influence. Until the end of your next turn, all creatures have advantage on charisma intimidation checks directed at the target. When you amplify it, the next wisdom saving throw the target makes before this curse has disadvantage. Once you apply this blood curse, you cannot use it again until you use a long rest. So it was a limited one, and I guess at an early level it was a intimidation. Intimidation could be something a lot of us use, but it wasn't something a lot of us really cared for, and we kind of ranked it kind of mid to low. But there are places where it has uses. Next up, we have the Blood Curse of the Binding. As a bonus action, you can attempt to bind a creature you see within 30 feet of you that is no more than one size larger than you. The target must succeed a strength saving throw and have their speed reduced to 0, and they can't use reactions until the end of your turn. When amplified, it lasts for a minute and can affect a creature regardless of their size, and at the end of each of its turns, the cursed creature must make another strength saving throw. On success, it ends. So if you were to use this on a person like a mage or someone who's just naturally dexterous, this would be very effective. But a lot of creatures, monsters, and potentially things that you don't want to get away. A lot of creatures have decent strength saving throws, so this is kind of a niche one. It'll come out once or twice and whatnot, but it, preventing something from running away. Honestly, it'd be better just to use like Sentinel or something like that, but it was a mid-range score for all of us. Next up, we get Blood Curse of the Bloated Agony. As a bonus action, you can curse a creature that you see within 30 feet of you to painfully swell until the end of your next turn. For the duration of this curse, the creature has disadvantage on strength and dex ability checks, and suffers 1d8 necrotic damage if it makes more than one melee attack or range attack. When amplified, it lasts for a minute, and at the end of each turn, it makes a Constitution save to end it. Now, strength and ability dexterity checks, those are, to a degree, I'd prefer to be strength checks. Well, strength saves and dex saves. But, that would be obligatorily powerful, especially at a first level thing. The 1d8 necrotic would only really affect creatures that have multi-attack, which once you start getting up in levels, sure, but Constitution is another one of the things that things save on. So you'd have guaranteed one thing, but you'd almost want to never amplify it. And then there's like a Hydra you would probably do this on, maybe a Baylor potentially, but I'm pretty sure they have powerful things. That naturally, if anything has resistance to necrotic damage, this ability it's just disappointing. Next up, we have one of the first ones that require you to be part of an order, the Blood Curse of Corrosion. At level 15, you need to be an Order of the Mutant. As a bonus action, you curse a creature, and it becomes poisoned. At the end of each of its turns, it can make another con save to end said curse. When you amplify it, the creature suffers 4d6 necrotic damage, and suffers this damage every time it fails this Constitution saving throw. Now, we had actually ranked this, despite its high level requirement and order requirement, we had ranked this very high. I believe it was all 10 out of 10, because if you hit the right creature with a terrible saving throw, and your saving throw for the thing is actually quite high, this is probably the worst thing you could do to a high level mage, or just creatures with a naturally low con save. And it potentially could last an entire fight, depending on how badly they roll those con saves. Say you got something that has a negative in its Constitution save, and you have a save of 20. Even if they roll a natural 20, they're going to end up failing their con save because they can't meet the thing. And that said, 4d6 damage every turn for the entirety of combat, or until it dies, well, you almost can't beat that. So we had ranked it very highly. Next up, we come to the Blood Curse of the Exorcist, which also was required at level 15th of the Ghost Slayer Order. As a bonus action, you choose one creature you see within 30 feet of you that is charmed, frightened, or possessed, and that creature is no longer charmed, frightened, or possessed. When you amplify it, the creature that charmed, frightened, or possessed the target you free from said curse, that creature will then suffer 3d6 psychic damage and must make a wisdom saving throw or be stunned. So, Hatter had actually brought up a really good point. Like, this is one of the only ways that we could think of to end a possession, because most of the times when something gets possessed, it's just in the body and there's not much we can do about it. But this will literally throw whatever's possessing them out, and if you amplify it like this, you can hit them with some psychic damage, which they can't really resist, and then stun them, and that gives you and the whole team the chance to counterattack said creature before it does something to screw you up today. So we had agreed that this would have been a 10 out of 10 ability. Someone might have said 9, but no, it's the fact that it's got some of these things for a lot of the creatures out there, it's a really good save. Although I did say something about the wisdom saving throw being kind of a, maybe not the best thing, but that's what it was. Next up, we got the Blood Curse of Exposure. When a creature you see within 30 feet is hit by an attack or spell, you can use your reaction to temporarily weaken their resilience against it. Till the end of the turn, the target loses resistance to one type of damage, triggering the attack or spell. When you amplify it, the target instead loses invulnerability to the damage type of the triggering attack or spell, having resistance to them until the end of the turn. We had agreed that it was good. Losing your resistance to anything is pretty good, like specifically fire, because that's one of the most resisted. And it's also one of the most common damage types. And the same thing is for the invulnerability loss. Like, we just thought it'd be amusing to kill a red dragon with a fireball. Next up, we come to the Blood Curse of the Eyeless. When a creature you see within 30 feet of you makes an attack roll, you can use your reaction to roll one Hemocraft die and subtract the number from the creature's attack. You can choose to use this feature after the creature's roll, but before the DM determines whether the attack roll succeeds. The creature is immune if it is immune to blindness. When you amplify it, this curse applies to all of its attack rolls until the end of the turn. You roll a new Hemocraft die for each attack. Now, back when Critical Role started its second campaign, this used to actually do, it used to give disadvantage on the attack rolls as opposed to this. Now, to be fair, I actually like this more, because even at disadvantage, you could potentially just double roll the same thing, and if you double roll a 15 and a 15, that's still going to hit the person, whereas if they roll a 15, and that's a plus, 3 to get an 18, and you roll -4 or 6 or 8 or 10, depending on whatever level you are. Rolling the max one is definitely it has a high likeliness of saving you, and we all agreed this was a very good one. Next up, you come to the Blood Curse of the Fallen Puppet. When you see a creature within 30 feet of you drop to 0 HP, you can use your reaction to give it a final act of aggression. This creature immediately make a single weapon attack against a target of your choice within its range. When you amplify, you can move that creature up to half their speed and grant a bonus to the creature's attack roll equal to your intelligence modifier. Now, we had enjoyed this one because, knock out a dragon or a giant or like the captain of a brigade of bandits and then have him immediately go out and smack something else that potentially was there was just amusing. And then I had said something about being a dick, and if you have an ally that drops to 0 HP but doesn't fall unconscious, you can make them do a final act of aggression. Or if you really wanted to be a dick and didn't like that type of in that character, you could then amplify it and have them just kind of move through a group of enemies, taking opportunity attacks and failing their death saves when they get hit to try and strike another guy, and then die afterwards. But that's what. After that, we come to the Blood Curse of the Howl, which we had all ranked very high. As an action, you are required to be 18th level and then part of the Order of the Lycan, but with how strong this actual ability is, we agreed that even though it was a high requirement, it's still a 10 out of 10 ability. I'd almost turn it up to 11 just because how amazing it was. Either way, when you howl, each creature within 30 feet of you that can hear you must succeed a wisdom saving throw or become frightened of you until the end of your next turn. If it fail it by 5 or more, they are stunned while frightened this way. A creature that succeeds this saving throw is immune to it for the next 24 hours. You can choose any number of creatures to be unaffected, and when you amplify it, that goes up to 60 feet. We agree that this was really good for large groups of people, and that this was a war changer. And just the potential for it to be beyond all comprehension of powerful. Because when you strike stunned creatures, those are automatic crits. So it was just, there was no real thing to talk about. It was just straight up amazing. Next up, we got the Curse of the Mark. As a bonus action, you mark a creature that you see within 30 feet. Until the end of your turn, whenever you deal right damage to the target, you re-roll an additional Hemocraft die. When you amplify it, the next attack roll you get against the target has advantage. Now, we agreed that the amplified version of this kind of just blows. But we did say that the actual fact that you theoretically crit automatically against this creature when it's affected by this right was a very good thing. I mean, sure, at first, I think it was second level, just doing an extra D4 damage, and that wasn't really impressive, but doing an extra D10 damage, I mean, that's an extra damage of potentially Psychic, Thunder, or whatever type of damage you'd chosen. So I think we gave it around, I think we did like 6 to 8 range on its rating, but that was about that. With the Blood Curse of the Muddled Mind, as a bonus action, you curse a creature that you see within 30 feet that is concentrating on a spell. When it makes its next con save, it does so with a disadvantage. And when you amplify, it has disadvantage on all Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration until the end of my next turn. So that's a lot of attacks that could potentially ruin something's concentration. So this is only really useful against mages or other characters who have spells that they can cast. Typically those would be like buffs that a paladin or maybe an Eldritch Knight or even a Arcane Trickster apply. But at the same time, it just... yeah, there's not much I can really say good. I think we kind of just gave it a meh rating. And then lastly, we come up to the Blood Curse of the Soul Eater, which requires you to be 18th level and order the Profane Soul. When a creature that isn't a construct or undead is reduced to 0 HP within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to usher their soul to your patron in exchange for power. Until the end of your next turn, your weapon attacks have advantage. In addition, when you amplify this, you regain an expended Warlock spell slot. Once you've applied this Blood Curse, you must finish a short... Once you've amplified this Blood Curse, you must finish a long rest before you can amplify it again. Now, the Amplify can get you one of your two, because the Profane Soul only gets 2 spell slots max. So this is still not that great because it requires you to be 18th level, and that's just a royal kick in the teeth. But, you know, it's also a fairly simple way to gain advantage on your weapon attacks. And it says until the end of your next turn, so you'll get advantage on any attacks that go for... well, I mean, because if you reduce a creature to 0 HP, and then you get the advantage, and then you strike another creature with a bit of advantage, on your next turn you'll have 2 strikes with advantage, and then you no longer have this ability. Provided that you don't kill said another creature with that advantage and just use this ability again. So it has a potential to be a 10, but at the same time, just because it's really high in the level and just not the favorite of things, it kind of, I think it was a 7. I forget what the other guys rated it, but it just had those